Okay, so it's Alexander's turn now, and we've got to look again at the command situation. So if you remember, his fighting value is 74, which means that he starts off with 7 commands. Remember that. You get 1 for each 10 points of fighting value. So he gets his 7 commands, plus he's going to get a dice roll once his commands get down to 1 or 0. But also, he gets special command exemptions for his general. So he himself is an inspired leader, and he also has inspired leader. He also has Parmenio over here, who is an average leader. Sorry, an average commander. So just a point there, a leader is a general who is attached to a unit. So Alexander is attached, I think he should actually be on that side. He's attached to the veteran cavalry here, so the unit dies, he dies, or he runs away at least. Over here, Parmenio has a little bit more flexibility. He's part of the group, but he's not actually attached to any particular unit. So if the group is killed, then he runs away as well, but he can't actually be targeted, whereas Alexander can because he's with a unit. So the generals give what's known as command exemptions. So Alexander is an inspired general, so he gets 4 command exemptions, which means that he gets 4 free movement points, or 4 free commands to use for movement, plus 4 free commands to use for attack or combat bonuses. Parmenio is an average general, so he gets 2 commands to use for movement and 2 commands to use for combat. So obviously he's not close enough to do any combat, so he's not going to use combat this turn, but Alexander will. So we're going to start off with the veteran heavy cavalry here, because we think that it's better to get Alexander's chaps up here pressurizing the Persian left and attempt to break through here and keep Parmenio refused, his flank refused as long as possible, so that they're not sustaining more casualties than they need. So we'll start off with the veteran cavalry, which will advance here. So as we said before, usually a group costs 2 commands to activate, but because they are veterans and there's only 2 of them, you can activate the both of them for 1 point. So we bring the commands down to 6 to do that. Now we're going to give these guys command bonuses, because we consider this to be an important attack. So it's 1 point, usually 2 points to give a command bonus. In this case it's 1 point for a lead veteran unit. So he's attacking heavy cavalry versus light cavalry is 8 to hit. He's moved before the attack, which is a -1, so he's needing 9 to hit. He's a lead unit, he's got a command bonus, and he's fighting levy, so that's a +3. So altogether he's looking at 8 plus 1, -1 plus 3, so a 6 is needed to hit. So let's see what we can do. We get a 7, so that's a hit. They're flipped over to the spent side, and we bring up the fresh unit into the lead. Now, the second unit of heavy cavalry has a go. Now you'll notice that these heavy cavalry units are about half the width of the other average heavy cavalry units, and that's to show that these count as only 1 towards the attack limit. So if we had 4 of these guys here, they could all attack, but of course there are only 2, so we still only get our 2 attacks, as did the Persians there. So the second attack is veteran heavy cavalry versus levy heavy cavalry. So it's a straight 7 to hit, -1 for having moved. We get a +1 for veterans or anyone against levies. So we need a 7 to hit, and we're going to give them another combat bonus. So 6 needed to hit. And we get a 7, so that's another score. So they flip over, and now the Persian player has to decide which one he wants to put in the lead. There are going to be no more attacks, so he doesn't really have to worry about it right now, but let's say he chooses to put the levy light cavalry now. If you notice, both of these are spent, so the next hit on that zone is going to shatter a unit, which means they'll be removed from the table, and it will force a morale check. And the army will also lose some fighting value, so these ones are worth 2 points each for fighting value, so the fighting value would go down by 2 for each one that gets shattered or routed off the table. So that's the first movement made, or activation of Alexander's turn, and the second one is going to be Alexander himself. So remember, he can use exemptions, so to move these guys is free. Now he gets 4 command exemptions, so what he could actually do if he wanted to is he could spend those exemptions to move chaps out of that zone before the attack, if he wanted to. So at this stage, he doesn't want to do that. He will attack with the veteran light infantry in the lead, remembering that he gets 4 combat exemptions as well, so or 4 command points worth of combat exemptions. So he's going to give these guys a bonus, which costs 1 because they're veterans in the lead. So light infantry versus heavy cavalry is hitting on an 8, I believe. I better just check the QRS for that. Don't want to be putting a crook at this stage. Yes, 8 needed, +1 for lead unit, +1 for bonus, so 6 needed to hit the average heavy cavalry. And he scores a 9. So if you remember, that's 3 above, so if he wanted to, he could make that into an all-out attack and force 2 hits. But he doesn't want to do that. He just wants to score the 1 hit at this stage because he's too valuable to spend. There we go. That's the first attack. So they count as 1 towards the attack limit, which means that we still get 3 more towards that. Now, the veteran heavy infantry here, they all count as half towards the attack limit. Read the book if you want to find out why. And they will be scoring against heavy cavalry. They're going to need 8s to hit. So we're going to give these guys another combat bonus using 2 of Alexander's remaining 3 exemptions. So they're going to be hitting on a 7. And it's another hit. So they're spent as well. Now, another heavy cavalry unit goes into the lead. So third attack. This time we're going to use Alexander himself. So he's still got 1 point's worth of command exemptions left. He's going to add a command from here. The army wants to give a bonus to himself. So heavy cavalry versus heavy cavalry is 7 needed, plus he's got the bonus, so he's hitting on a 6. And he scores a 6, which if he was prepared to all-out attack, would allow him to spend that guy at the cost of spending himself, but he doesn't want to all-out attack. So we've used 1.5, 2.5 towards our attack limit at this stage, so we're just going to finish off with 2 more attacks from the veteran units there. So just no combat bonuses here, just straight 8s needed to hit, and we got a 12. Okay, so that's actually a double hit, which is pretty nasty for the Persians there. So that's 2 hits there, and then they've got to put another one to the lead to deal with the last attack, which is needing an 8 again, and it's another hit, a 9. So this has been a disaster for the Persians. So they take, this unit is hit, because it's spent, and he's hit again, he's shattered, so he goes into the shattered pile, and we've got to take a morale test for the army. So the morale test turns out to be a 3, which rounds to 2. So, yeah, everyone should be okay for that. So Alexander's attack has been extremely successful, and now the Persians are looking pretty shaky. You can see they're left here, they're all spent units, so it's not gonna, they're not going to hang around for too much longer, one wouldn't think. Alright, so they've got 2 commands left for the army. Things are pretty dicey here. If you recall, 3 spent units in the centre. Now, normally you would attack, but in this case it would leave a spent unit in the lead, and any hits next turn would result in a shatter. So what Alexander will do is move in the fresh unit at a cost of 1. Remember, it's just a single unit, it only costs 1 to move him, and put him into the lead and not attack. So he's foregoing an attack to buy time and prevent the shatter. Over here, Parmenio, remember he has exemptions, so he could move without using the command cost of the army, but he thinks it's better to just stay put at this stage. So that's the end of Alexander's turn. He's still got 1 command which is left unused actually. Well, actually we should have rolled the dice to see. Yeah, so he would have had another 4 commands, so 5 commands left. Uh, there's quite a lot to play with, but yes, we're not going to do anything with those, so they're just going to be wasted. So that's the end of Alexander's turn.